afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a very special edition of Khmer Time Cross Talk. Today, for the first time ever, we have Madame Natalia Zinkina, the Deputy Head of Mission of Ukraine in Vietnam. Good afternoon, Madam.
Good afternoon to you.
Yeah, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, it's our great honor to have you in our studio today, and yeah, we have a lot to discuss today about the Ukraine-Cambodia relation, and especially what's happening in Ukraine, especially of course the Russian military operation in your country, Ukraine. But first of all, first thing first, can you tell us about your mission here in Cambodia? Why are you here, and what is your expectation during the mission here?
Thank you once again for having me today, and good morning or good afternoon to viewers from Cambodia. Answering your question, I arrived here on Saturday to attend the Ukrainian charity event. It was organized by Ukrainian community in Phnom Penh, and it was a special event that shows the peculiar feature of Ukrainians as a nation. When something bad happens, Ukrainians tend to gather together and to help each other. And this was taken as an example by the whole world, by the international community, the example to follow. And this is how all this support from entire world that we receive comes from. The world solidarity is very helpful to Ukraine. And I'm here on a special mission to ensure the more solidarity that we can get.
Okay, thank you very much. It sounds very interesting, a charity event hosted by Ukrainians in Cambodia. Okay, speaking of Ukraine, speaking of the what behind this, I'm very sorry for what has been happening in Ukraine right now. Of course, the conflict between Ukraine and Russia in Ukraine territory has been a major headlines today. Can you tell me what's happening right now, especially something that has not been reported by news agency or anything from Ukraine side? Can you tell us about that?
I wish that Ukraine is on the news for something good, something brilliant happening in Ukraine, maybe the movie festival or some art event. But unfortunately, yes, we are on the news, on the headlines because of the Russia's war against Ukraine. And basically, there are lots of international journalists in Ukraine, and they are reporting live from Ukraine. There is nothing major to add to what you've already seen in the news. Maybe I can share we have already calculated preliminary what it will cost for us to rebuild Ukraine. And after the war ends, we will have to build again the houses for 200,000 Ukrainians who have lost their homes. And we will have to rebuild 13,000 infrastructural buildings like schools, like hospitals, like even the roads, everything that was destroyed. And it will take us about, according to preliminary estimation, about $600 billion.
$600 billion.
Yeah.
Oh, there are a lot of zeros.
This is the insight that I can share in addition to what is already on the news, because every step, every move of both Russian and Ukrainian army is already on the news. There is nothing to hide.
So, can you describe to us your feeling? I mean, what has been happening there? A lot of suffering. A lot of people are losing their homes. So, what's your feeling about that? What, you personally, and as a diplomat, how do you feel about what the Russian force has been doing in your countries?
It's a pain. It's a pain every day. Every day I'm afraid to open the news and to see that another shelling took place, more people died, more atrocities committed, and well, it's very obvious what are the feelings of every Ukrainian. Firstly, Every morning we know what is the count of the days of war. Today is 103 days of war already, and but we are still standing strong. And it's not only because of the bravery of Ukrainians and the efforts of Ukrainian community in Ukraine and around Ukraine, but it's also thanks to the help of the international community. And so what I want to say is, together with the pain that we feel every day, I also every day feel the gratitude towards all the friends of Ukraine that help not only to host the refugees, the displaced people from Ukraine, but also send the humanitarian aid and the financial aid and also the military aid, which is very important for us.
Thank you very much. What in your opinion, what caused this war to happen? Is it like because geopolitical factor, or Ukraine, or a realist aspect of the world, or what?
The causes go deep to the history of the relations between Russia and Ukraine. And Ukrainian state emerged long before Russia appeared. And since that, when the Moscovia started to blossom, there were numerous attempts to have the Ukrainian territory, to have the Ukrainian history as their own. And Russian Empire was always kind of a conquering force to its neighbors. It never stopped to have wars, and Ukraine was a usual victim of that. And this is just a continuation of the history. We had the Soviet invasion before the Second World War as well, because you know that in 1939 the war started. I mean, the Second World War started with the invasion of Germany of Poland, and then the Soviet Union took another part of Poland as well, and also the Soviet Union invaded the western part of Ukraine, which was not the part of the Soviet Union back then. And so what we are having now, it's the continuous attempt to incorporate Ukrainian territories in to the territory of Russia, to eliminate Ukraine as a nation, to eliminate culture of Ukraine, to eliminate every Ukrainian root that is possible. It was done during the Soviet times. It is being done now. It's just the continuation of Russia's policies.
Yeah. Now, looking at your career, in your station in Vietnam, so apart from Vietnam, does the embassy of Ukraine in Vietnam cover other countries, yes, sir?
Yes, we cover Cambodia here. Unfortunately, our two countries do not have the ambassadors appointed, but we do have the embassies, and our embassy in Hanoi covers Cambodia for quite a long time.
Okay. Now, get bigger further into Vietnam. Vietnam and Russia have been I can say, a big partner, trading partner, of course, and of course in the world, sometimes money matter more than than politics, than diplomat. It has a very big impact on the relations between countries. So what has been the response from Vietnamese on the invasion? How has it been for you, as you can see?
Actually, Vietnam took quite a strong stance against the invasion. The representatives of Vietnam voiced the condemnation of aggression, and it is a precious support for Ukraine as well, given that we do understand what is the depth of relationship between Russia and Vietnam. And not only the relationship and friendship, but also the dependence of Vietnamese defense sphere upon Russia. Economically, it's not that huge. Truly, you can see that the territory of Russia is a big one, but economically, Russia is just a minor part of the global economy. And towards Vietnam, it is more important to have good economic relations with other major partners like the US, the China, the Korea, the ASEAN community as well. So we receive the condemnation of Russian aggression against Ukraine politically in Vietnam. We also received the financial support from the Vietnamese government. We have recently received the 500,000 US dollar as a help to Ukraine.
Nice, nice. Yes, it's so good to hear that. Cambodia this year, 2020 has been a very big year for Cambodia in terms of international diplomatics. We have been ASEAN, the chair of ASEAN, and a lot has been a lot have been expected of Cambodia as a chair of ASEAN. So, how about Ukraine? Does Ukraine have any specific proposal or request from Cambodia as a chair of ASEAN, in ASEAN, of course, regarding the conflict happening in Ukraine right now?
Cambodia is doing a very good job right now being a chair, and when it comes to Ukrainian issue, we are also thankful to Cambodia because Cambodia supported Ukraine in the United Nations. Cambodia even co-sponsored the United Nations resolutions taken from the very beginning of the war. And the Cambodian Prime Minister also voiced his condemnation of the invasion of a sovereign state, and it's very important. And what we are looking for here in Cambodia as a chair of the ASEAN is that for Cambodia to help consolidate ASEAN's stance, ASEAN's united stance on Ukraine, and together with defending Ukraine on the ground, we are looking for diplomatic solutions, not only for fighting. And we want to look at Cambodia's experience on finding the ways out of major crisis. And what is important is finding the ways for post-war reconciliation. I know the history of Cambodia is a complicated one, but you did overcome this challenge, and you did have a united society, and right now we want to learn from this experience and maybe to help Cambodia to give us some hints about the negotiations as well.
Yeah. Getting back to Ukraine for a bit, about the people, we want to look at the human side of it. How many people do you have the statistic of how many people has been internally displaced, and those who are trapped inside the war zone?
Yeah, we have I think more than 12 million Ukrainians that has been displaced, and out of that number, more than 5 million had to flee Ukraine. It was actually more, but since Ukraine pushed away the Russian forces from Kiev and from Sumy and Kharkiv region, many people chose to go back. And so the number is 12 million, which is 1/4 of Ukrainian population. And if you can imagine, 1/4 of Cambodian population, or even like 12 million applied to Cambodian population, it's a huge number. And it's a huge humanitarian crisis. And I cannot give you the numbers on how many people are trapped into the conflict area, because the evacuation process is ongoing. Every day we help those who are trapped to evacuate, and we try to do it in advance, but sometimes people are not really willing to leave their houses because they do not know where they will live, and especially it applies for all old people. It's very difficult for them to move.
With so much suffering in Ukraine right now, you think anyone should deserve to be, accusing of a war crime? Anyone should be convicted for that?
You know, I was in charge of delivering news messages for our social media, for our embassy social media. And when the Russian forces withdrew from the suburbs of Kiev, from Bucha, from Irpin, they left the massacre there. And I had to look through the pictures of those victims of this massacre, and it breaks my heart really, because I have a child who is almost 5 years old, and on those pictures I've seen children of his age being killed, putting together with the whole family killed with their ties tied like this. And you cannot publish it on social media, but it's on there, on Ukrainian soil, and it was committed by Russian invading forces. And we are not just making news about that or saying these accusations. So we have the investigation committee led by the United Nations coming to Ukraine, and we have the investigators from European partner countries who come and to help Ukrainian police to record all those crimes that has been done.
Do you see an end to this? Is there peaceful negotiation, arbitration, anything peaceful possible for ending the violence in Ukraine?
I see an end by Ukraine's victory, because there is no other option for Ukrainians. We do not have anywhere to withdraw, and it's Russia who has to stop that and who has to withdraw its forces back to Russia's territory. And if, for example, if we let Russia to have a victory in this war, then it will be a sign for everyone who thinks that the rules-based order is nothing, could be easily violated, could be easily neglected, then what will happen to the whole world if it comes? So the only solution to this war is Ukraine's victory, and it can be achieved both militarily and both politically and diplomatically. So I see the end towards this war in Ukraine's victory, but how to bring us closer to that war, this is another issue.
You mentioned a lot of suffering, yeah, people being losing their homes, infrastructure destroyed. So do you want to address to international communities and powerful countries? Do you want them to help Ukraine right now?
We already received that help in terms of sanctions, which is very important. I know that there are some thoughts in Cambodia like sanctions doesn't work. No, they do work. And right now, with all the sanctions that are imposed, Russia cannot produce new weapons already, cannot produce new machinery already, and while they do not have more bombs or weapons, then the less civilians in Ukraine will be dead. And this is the most evident consequence of the sanctions, right? So then the sanctions prevent Russia from earning money, not only from buying some goods from abroad, or they also prevent Russia from selling that and for earning money to fuel that war. And the longer we withstand with the help of the international community, the longer it takes for Russia to shrink its economy and to lose the opportunities and possibilities to continue with that war. And I do hope that this is also one of the parts of the solution for ending this war.
Okay. Earlier, a few days ago, the Russian force, they have gained the upper hand in some areas, and we noticed that the tide suddenly changed. Can you please enlighten us on that?
The situation in the front is changing quite quickly. There are the days that Russia approaches and takes some parts of the territories. Another day, Ukrainian forces would advance and push back the Russian forces. Up to the 103rd day of war, Russia didn't achieve any goal that it stated as a pretext for its war. They had nothing. And this is what is the result of Ukraine's bravery and the might of Ukraine's military force, which is supported by the international community.
I mean, some countries, including the European Union, have been providing Ukraine with military technology and weapons to fight against the invading force. But when does the country have any concern whether those stuff will fall into the hand of Russia and be used against them?
I don't see it's possible for Russia to gain anything of what we receive from our partners, because whenever we have the new good weapon, we advance on the front and we push away the Russian forces. So far, I don't see, well, I'm not a military expert, but I don't see any possibility for Russia to have those small victories over Ukrainian armed forces when we have the right weapon to fight against Russia.
One thing that we really want to know, how many casualties in the war in Ukraine right now? Dead, missing, injured, handicapped. Do you have the statistic on that?
We used to have it, but I think we stopped to publish these figures because they are quite irrelevant. We cannot calculate all the casualties, especially on those territories that are now controlled by Russia. We officially speak about thousands of casualties, and we do estimate some economic losses, like I mentioned, and for the casualties among civilians, we rely on the figures of the United Nations, and we do record all the losses in terms of civilians through our police system, but we do not publish that because it's quite irrelevant. We cannot give the right general figures right now.
This is what we can notice. I think in Ukraine, male population, they are forbidden from leaving the city. They are what they call the reserve. So far, but there are also volunteers, of course. So do you have the percentage of the volunteers in the fighting force right now?
I don't have that percentage, but from what I know, there are still the queues among male population to join, these territorial defense units, and those queues are because those officers who are in charge of attracting the forces, man force, they do not take everyone. We do not need like those people who are inexperienced. We only take those who have some experience, who would be quick to learn, use the new weapons as well. And most of those queues right now, they will be dismissed, like, no, sorry, you please take some other action to help Ukraine and to volunteer on another fronts. So we have strong territorial defense. We have also international region fighting for Ukraine, but we only take those who are useful actually in fighting on the ground. And the volunteer movement is the best for organizing, the supply chains of the humanitarian aid. organizing the food being sent to the front, organizing the clothing being sent to the front. So it's a very complicated process. It's not only volunteers to the army, but it's also volunteers who self-organize. They do not ask for permission from the authorities to do some volunteer job. And I think it's among my friends that I know, there's no one who is sitting and waiting for something. Everyone is doing some small volunteer job. Either it's organizing a charity event or finding the ways to buy, the protective gear for Ukrainian soldiers. So everyone is volunteering. So the percentage is 100%, but not all of them is in the military.
Yeah, get back a little bit. I just really wonder the charity event organized by the Ukrainians here. How was it actually?
It was a huge success. Lots of people. We haven't calculated yet how much money was gathered, but we had lots of vendors, local vendors present, and including those from the international businesses. We had a concert. We had a lucky draw. We had selling the souvenirs and food, and no one wanted to leave. Actually, we came at 4 when the event started, and there was a huge crowd, and it continued until the end, until the 8 p.m. No one wanted to leave.
Yes. How do you feel? How did you feel when you see that the solidarity of the Ukrainians here in Cambodia? How do you feel about it?
I'm happy, but I had no doubt that it will be like that, because I know Ukrainians, and I now know that the humanity is strong by this feeling of empathy towards others, by this ability to help someone whom you never met and maybe will not ever met, but you are here to help. And the war is the worst thing that people can do to each other, but the best thing is this empathy and sympathy towards others and the ability to help each other. This what keeps humanity going.
Last but definitely not least, do you have any message on the plight of Ukraine to Cambodia, to Asia, to ASEAN, to the world, please?
For sure. I was thinking about this message, and I think it's a usual message. It's not only to Cambodia, it's to everyone, that everyone is responsible for maintaining this world. Everyone is responsible by his or her small deeds for keeping peace and stability. And whenever we tolerate some crime, then the more crime would come, and we will not be able to stop that. So I would want to urge Cambodians and anyone else in this world not to tolerate the crime. The crime should be punished, and we need to have a clear vision of that and the clear intention to bring someone who thinks that ruining the world order is a possible thing. We need to have a clear vision on bringing those persons or countries to the responsibility.
Thank you very much. Again, we really appreciate your presence here, and we wish you all the best, you and your country. Thank you very much, Madam.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all for our show today. See you next time. Goodbye.